eventually. So as you finally let go and these things are taken away from us, we will experience peace and we'll experience a blessing from God, ultimately. So the demon was doing a number on this guy before leaving him. He convulsed him. And like I said earlier, he threw him to the floor. But once he let him, got rid of him, this man was what? He was at peace now. He was at peace. It was no longer tormented. So how did the people respond to this? They're going to get amazed again. Look at verse 27, 28. Then they were all amazed, so they questioned among themselves, saying, what is this? What new doctrine is this? For with authority he commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him. And immediately his fame spread throughout all the region around Galilee. So here we're going to see the public's reaction to the exorcism that took place in the synagogue. They were all amazed. They questioned among themselves, saying, what is this? What new doctrine is this? See, they never experienced such power and authority before. They only experienced the tradition and the rabbis, but they never experienced having the actual Son of Man, according to John 1:1, speak directly to them. So Jesus taught them with authority, and he backed up his actions with authority also. And because of this, now his fame began to spread. In those days, there were many exorcists. And there was two key methods that they used for exorcism. If Kate came to me and told me I think I'm demon possessed back in those days, I didn't get a happy look. I would take some smelly root and I would put it in her nose. And they would hope that that smelly root would scare the demon out. Or number two, they would invoke a higher spirit to get rid of the lower spirit. If you ever want to look that up, it's a one-volume commentary by Craig Keener, Bible background. And what he does is he goes through the verses, but he brings you the culture from it into it. So that way you learn why he says certain things and what the culture was at that time. So the people that were amazed because Jesus didn't have to put a root up your nose. He didn't have to invoke a higher being. But Jesus himself simply told the demon to leave, to shut up and come out. See, so this, not only were they amazed at his teaching, but now they're amazed at the way he got rid of this demon here. Now, in verses 29 through 31, we're going to see the heart of Jesus, the healing of Peter's mother-in-law. Verse 29. Now, as soon as they had come out of the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. But Simon's wife's mother lay sick with a fever, and they told him about her at once. So now after the service, Peter takes Jesus, James and John along to his house. This was customary to take the main Sabbath meal immediately after the Sabbath, and exactly at the 6th hour they were meeting at 12 noon. And it is believed by archaeological findings, excavations, that Peter lived right near the synagogue. Some say even a rock's throw away. That's how close he was. So they go over to Peter's, and Peter was not alone because Peter lived with an extended family. He was married. We're not the first boat. He was married. He had a wife. He had children. He had a mother-in-law living there. And it's believed that Andrew, his brother, even lived there with his family. So it was a pretty large household there. And I believe it was 1 Corinthians 9:5 tells us about Peter having a wife, and even about taking your spouses with you on ministry. In 1 Corinthians 9:5 it tells us, do we have no right to taking along a believing wife, as do also the other apostles, the brothers of the Lord, and Cephas. So we see that he was married, he had a wife. So you can't deny that he wasn't married, right? Because the Pope is not supposed to be married. So that kind of refutes their belief right there. But we know from the story here that Simon's wife's mother lay sick. So Jesus entered the house, and the men come over, and they tell him that, she's sick with a fever, and it says that this fever was a burning fever. In the Greek there, it means to be on fire. In other words, she was burning up from her fever. In Luke chapter 4, verse 38, it tells us, now he arose from the synagogue and entered Simon's house, but Simon's wife's mother was sick with a high fever, and they made request of him concerning her. So she was pretty well ill in those days. They don't have the medicine like we have today, and she had a high fever. So in those days, people could die very easily from something like this. Notice verse 31. He says, so he came and took her by the hand and lifted her up, and immediately the fever left her, and she served him. So Jesus comes in, he goes to wherever she was at, and what does he do? He takes her by the hand, and he lifts her up, and he heals her. You know, Jesus heals people by words. He heals people by touching. There's been times the enemy didn't have to go there. He just says, go your way, your daughter's healed. You know, he just speaks the word, he touches them. He has different methods that he uses. You know, sometimes, you know, try this one. If you ever have bad eyesight, get some mud and spit on it. Put it on your eyes. See if that'll help you. You know, Jesus healed a guy's sight by doing that himself. You know, Luke says he stood over her and rebuked the fever. Matthew says he touched her. Either way, all it took was what? Jesus touched. Whether he stood over her, sat down by her, spoke to her, what it took is touch. And what did she do after she was healed? She got up and she began to serve him. In other words, the meal, the Sabbath meal. She began to serve them the Sabbath meal. Notice here her motive. You know, her motive after being touched by Christ, her motive was to serve Christ. Shouldn't that be true of every one of us here? We received Christ, right? We received his healing touch. We've been healed spiritually. We've been healed by his stripes, right, spiritually. So that should be our desire now, right? Our desire should be to serve him. See, in all we do now, we should be serving him. You know, it's no longer about us, right? It's about Christ. You know, when he touched our heart, you know, he chose us, he elected us, and he touched us, and he transformed our hearts. And he transformed our hearts so that our lives now would be glorifying him in all that we do. So in other words, it's all about Christ and not about me no more. You know, you may think, well, that's pretty boring, you know, all about Christ, what about me? Well, you know, if you've been transformed and you're living according to Christ, your life is always going to be happy. You know, you're going to be pleased with everything you do because you're doing his will. And that's the only way you're going to be content, is by doing the will of God. But, you know, he knows things that we like. Oh, maybe you like boxing, maybe you like working out. Well, sure, we can still do these things, you know, working out, right? You know, we can still do these things, but, you know, our lives are all about him now. That's what matters. And we have many ways that we can serve him. And I'll challenge you today, you know, when you pray tonight, ask the Lord how you can serve him. What's he placed in your heart? You know, how am I going to serve you? Here you came down, you died on the cross, you shed your blood for me, you redeemed me. You were mocked, you were spit upon, you were beat, just for me. Even though I didn't deserve it, but you love me so much that you even called me before the foundations of the world. You know, so what can I do for you? At least we can do something, right? Any little thing we can do, right? So that, pray that when you go home, practice that. And you'll be surprised where maybe he'll speak to you on what you should be doing. So, you know, there was a talkative woman who received Christ under Spurgeon's ministry and said, "Oh, Mr. Spurgeon, Christ has changed my life, and he shall never hear the end of it." I wonder if Christ one day told her to be muscled, you know, but she'll never hear the end of it. I mean, she's always going to give him the glory, you know, glory. She probably is always going to talk about him, you know, because when people get saved and they're transformed, their life changes. There's something about you that you want to share with other people because it's an excitement. Because, you know, something happened to you that you didn't do, that he did for you. See? So here, you know, I guess the question can be, does God heal today?
Yes.
Oh, hey, that was pretty good. One more time. Does God heal today?
Yes.
Here we go. There we go. See? He heals today. Same yesterday and forever. Yeah, right there. I mean, I believe he healed me.
Amen.
Yeah. He's keeping me around for a while, so still has some work to do. You know, but I believe he heals if it's his will. Okay? Because, you know, Timothy had an ailment, you know, and he had to take a little sip of a little wine every so often for the ailment. But I believe it's according to God's will. Because everything's according to his will. You know, I think Joni Erickson taught paraplegic, you know, pool accident when she was swimming at a young age. And they asked her once, she's in a wheelchair, and they asked her once if you want to be healed. She said no, because she's touched thousands of lives of people in her condition because of where she's at.